Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CG Cookie live stream. As always, if you want to put in where you're watching from as we start this off, Joe will do the shout outs. And today we're going to be doing a character concept art, but it's a little companion creature. We're going to do a sheep. His name is Cal. And the things that I wanted to show you are pretty much how to take a line concept art and how to apply a texture painterly appearance to it. So today I'm going to be working with two brushes. I'm going to be working with the chalk brush, which is in our basic pack. And then the second one I will explain when I get to it, but it's a very heavily textured painterly brush. So the chalk brush adds a bit of texture, and then this other brush really adds in like almost like a palette knife leftover type of a look, and that's what we will be trying to achieve today. So that is what we are going for.
All right, let's see if Google Chrome will update with the questions. I've got to give it a second because it's still blank.
Oh, and if you are watching on YouTube instead of our Google Hangout, we did get a direct connect now, so we shouldn't have any big lag or jumps unless if we lose power completely. So if you want to continue to ask questions through the Hangout, you can come back from YouTube onto here now.
It's starting to filter in with viewers. So, I will continue to make really weird faces into the camera. While we wait for this to update. Any news for this week?
Yes. Me and Wes and Joe will be at Anime Milwaukee this weekend. So if you are in the Midwest area, more specifically southeastern Wisconsin, all three of us will have a CG Cookie booth that we will be not only behind, but Wes will be doing more of like the marketing promo for CG Cookie, but I'll be doing a live drawing the entire weekend with the new camera that I don't know if you can see. Ta-da! This little IPvo guy. I think his name is Ziggy. Yep, that's what his actual name is. So I'm going to be doing a live drawing. It's going to be a traditional one all weekend. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Apparently, users can't comment for some reason on the Google Hangout, and I have no idea why.
Oh, no. Of course, we fix our internet, and what happens? Google Hangout is messing with us.
Oh, I am. I'm in their Skype chat right now, and they're all like, "Ah!" But I am not. Says, tell them I can't blow their minds with brilliant questions.
That is bizarre.
That is very odd that it's not letting it do that. There's no comment button or section at all. What
well, I'm
heck?
sure this will be a stream full of me just jabbering the whole time. But if you guys want to ask Joe, let me. So on the community page where we normally post where we are going to be streaming and what the topic is going to be, if you want to ask your questions on there, I think that would be the best place for Joe then to grab them.
Yeah.
Let me put out a link. So it's community.cgcookie.com, and it'll be one of the first ones. It's called Concept Livestream Cal Demo. And if you want to ask your questions on there, that's where we will be taking the questions today.
Very odd indeed. Man, Google Hangout just every week, just something. You know. All right, I'll wait for that to update.
Deal.
Actually, I wonder if I can get to the YouTube page, like the live event.
Probably.
I wonder if people can ask questions on there. I am not says hello from Castle in the Sky.
Oh, you're from Laputa. All right, so I guess since this is going on, we'll kind of switch it up today and I'll kind of get right into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CG Cookie live stream. We do these every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time. And if you're outside of the States, it's -5 GMT. And we usually post the topic about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours beforehand. And today we're going to be doing the Cal demo. Cal is our sheep companion character that we've been kind of passing around behind the scenes at CG Cookie. And I've kind of fallen in love with painting this character. It's a really simple sheep, but it's a great practice in doing this texture look that we're trying to create since he's so spherical. His whole body is just a clump of spheres that are kind of like melted together. And I think this is a perfect subject matter to test out the painterly effect if that is something that you wanted to try out for yourself. So I might even, after the stream is over, I'll give you guys the line art that I've been using for Cal and the finished PSD so you guys can see the what we did in like the steps. I'll probably only have like 2 or 3 layers of steps, but it's still something to look at and check out if this is something that interests you. If you're new to the Hangouts, we usually have a question section on the side. Today, unfortunately, Google Hangout is kind of pooping out on us. So if you want to ask a question, go to our community page and we have a live stream forum topic section. And if you just click it, you can ask your questions on there. Joe will be sure to answer them or at least get them forwarded onto the stream. And there's something else. Oh, we will be at Anime Milwaukee this weekend. If you are in the Midwest area, you should come check it out. And I will be doing a live drawing the entire weekend. And actually, I had to put together, Lisa is our traditional sculptor for CG Cookie, and we are showing off her sculptures this weekend. And I was given 2 of them to put together and glue and paint. So I have this dragon here, which I don't want to break it, so I don't want to get too close, but it's really articulate. This was actually really fun to put together. I learned a lot about myself and doing garage kits, which I didn't even know was a thing with the traditional world. And then I also have the Chimera that she did. I really like both of them. I think they're fantastic examples of her work. And if doing traditional sculpting, because this is not a 3D print, this is actually a clay sculpted figure that then she molded and casted. And if that's something that interests you, I know I'm definitely curious to try it out sometime this year. She has some great videos on CG Cookie right now. All right, so I'm going to hop over here. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask, even if it doesn't pertain to what I am working on specifically, and we'll be sure to answer them. All right, so I'm going to switch my screen to the canvas here. Let me grab that example that I did earlier today to start this off.
I had something in my brain that I wanted to say, and I totally forgot what it was.
Perfect. All right, so the first thing that we're going to try to achieve is this look with the character before we add the rim light. Because I think it's important to add in the rim light as an after effect, almost like a polish, rather than it having be like the main focus. I think we get caught up too much with like the things that should be the final details, like highlights and rim lights and editing your colors or like overlay and multiply layers. So we're going to try to hit this one first, and then we'll work on adding that rim light. So I'm going to go ahead and hide those. Now I'm going to make a copy of this giant, or of the line art that we have in the corner here. I'm going to make it bigger so you guys can see what we're doing on a close-up scale. And I did the initial line art with the chalk brush, but you can see it's more of a clean look in terms of it's not very like textured. The lines don't have like a crazy amount of off-put texture. It's pretty much straightforward. This is the little sheep that we're working on. And the example brushes that I'm going to be working with, the first one is the chalk brush itself. This is the kind of effect it gets. And if you push down harder and you cross back over, it gets a solid, no opacity look. But if you do only one brush down, you can see how it leaves remnants of the texture behind. And if you press really light, you can get even like pockets where there is barely any visibility of the brush that you're working with. So that's the first one. And then later on, we're going to be working with, let me make sure I know what it's called. I called it the CG Cookie Texture Brush. So this is what it is. Let me make the shape dynamics all the way up. Something like this. So not only does it have that texture brush look in the center, but it has the string-like appearance on either side. It's almost like if you were painting a wall with a brush, it has like those few strings that are being left over on either side from the brush itself. And I know you guys can't see the outline of the brush. Let me try to do like a stamp of it. It looks something similar to this. And then when you move it around, it creates that look. So I'm going to be focusing on that later on. For now, I'm going to be working with just the chalk brush, and I'll tell you guys when we switch. Okay, I'm going to turn this layer's opacity down quite a bit. I'm only using it as a sizing reference, but for the most part, I'm just using the colors that we're going to be laying down as the new outlines of the character. I will also put the colors I'm using on the side. It's kind of hard to see. You know what? I'm going to make the background a neutral gray. I normally do this when working with, oh, that's right. The original was on the background there. And if you don't want that white outline from the box that the layer was on, so this layer, the original one that we have, I'm just going to set that layer mode to multiply. Oops, there we go. And what multiply basically does for people that like working with line art or taking pictures of their traditional work and then scanning them and then bring them into Photoshop, it usually, if the scan was done right, should eliminate the white that is in the picture itself. So you can see here, when it was on normal, we have that crisp box of the white JPEG that the image was on, because as a JPEG, it was a flattened image. So the background white was included. But if we change it to multiply, that white then becomes transparent. All right, so I'm going to make a new layer above this. I'll lay down the color palettes that I'm going to be working with. Let's see. The sheep itself, its wool is a very light purple, and then the body itself is a darker shade of that purple. And we're going to be working with blue as our complementary color and our accent color. And I'll show you how to, when you're working with the rim light, originally the rim light I had was blue. But then if we look at what I ended up going with, it was this orange color. And that's because I did the rim light on its own layer, so that when you are kind of deciding, is this the color that I even like, you can just change the hue and saturation slider bar. And I really like the way that orange complemented the purple, so I stuck with the orange instead of the blue. So that's more of a personal last minute edit, and I think for whatever color you would want to add, you can do it, but I want to make sure you guys know how.
We have some hellos, by the way, on the forum.
Okay, do you want to do those while I do the base then? And I guess really quick, when I'm doing the base, I'm pressing down pretty lightly. I'm not caring too much about if I'm going outside of the edge. I'm just trying to get the major forms solidified here, and then we can focus on the detailing. So while I'm doing that, when we get some of those hellos in.
Fabian says, yay, it's Wednesday evening again. Very excited as always. Hello from the Netherlands. Anna G says, hello from Austria. Just from a tiny apartment, not a castle. I am not says, so is there a small matter of, so there's a small matter of handing out clues.
The what?
I'm guessing he means for the contest, which if you were to look on last week's post, there's a clue in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Tigil says, hello. How long could you hold that, Joe? I could hold that for a lot longer, but I'm not going to. Night Changer says, hello from Israel. I'm just writing this to get 20 characters for posting. Zoibu says, hello there, guys. Where do you guys get inspiration from when you are drawing?
Life. I think I take things that are happening to me currently or things that I see when I'm outside or things that are more emotional from things that have happened in the past or whatever it might be, even just a song that you listen to or a movie that you watch. I think you should be able to take inspiration from anything and then kind of go through like a artist filter that you have in your brain and then create something that was inspired from it.
I'm not asks, do you have any plans for what to draw next before you finish the current thing you're working on? Or do you find yourself finishing something and facing that gap where you don't know what to move on to?
Wait, say that first part again?
All right. Do you always have a plan for what to draw next before you finish the current thing you're working on?
Do I always have a plan? No. I I think it would be crazy if I told you I did. I usually have like an idea of like maybe 1 or 2 drawings that I for sure want to get done, and I put those on like the back burner of my brain. But once I finish those, sometimes I'll just do like, and I think I mentioned this last week too. If you see me do like a celebrity sketch or something that I saw from life, so like a nature sketch, that usually means that I'm not inspired to create something more original. It's more of like a one-to-one testing my skills of realism. But yeah, I think I trust myself. I've seen it work in the past where you're worried once you finished one great idea that you have in your head that you won't have another one. But I promise you, if you're an artist, ideas will constantly be coming in, and it's up to you to get them out. I think my biggest frustration is if I don't complete drawings and they kind of like stockpile in my mind, and then it becomes overwhelming. So I like to get them out without the fear of thinking, will I have a new idea? I would rather be in the position of not having another idea because I've been pumping out so much than not pumping out anything and having a lot of things on stockpile up in my mind. Oh, and really quick, I'm having the lighting come from slightly overhead and to the left. It's a pretty basic standard concept art lighting direction. It could either be from the left or the right. But the idea is you don't want any extreme lighting conditions. You don't want a bunch of harsh cast shadows or angular lighting, because you want the concept art to come across very easy to read. And especially for the 3D modeler, it should be easy to distinguish the forms of the character and what well, for this character, it's not wearing clothes, but if it was wearing clothes, it'd be easy to decipher what those clothes are.
I'm just gonna go down actually, this is kind of nice because they're like time stamped in order of people asking the questions. It's not like random. Tijal asks, have you ever had an art block? If yes, how did you overcome that? If no, I still want to know how to overcome it.
I'm trying to think of when my last art block was. I definitely have them. I think it would be a lie if anyone told you they don't. My last big art block was in like October of well, even that I guess when it came to doing tutorials and stuff with CG Cookie, I was just overwhelmed with a lack of concentration and focus with what I was doing. But in terms of like being inspired to do art stuff, it was probably around summer last year, and I was drawing only what I was seeing, and I wasn't really trying to think abstractly, or I wasn't looking to be inspired anywhere. And I think that's where the lack of new creative drawings came in, and I just kind of resorted to the standard profile shot or just head study that I almost always do because it's a comfort zone. So I definitely can fall back on those, and it is comforting to some degree. And I do realize that I can't just rely on that for everything, but I do find peace in doing them. But to get over it, I think you do have to push yourself to keep going, keep drawing. Don't stop drawing. As long as you're drawing, I don't care what the subject matter is, because you just need to get in the habit of continually be in the habit of drawing, because then when you are inspired or you do feel like inspiration has hit, you can go ahead and just get right on drawing. You're not in like the weird slump of trying to get back into the groove of drawing again.
Just for the new people coming into the stream, if you guys come in, you can't ask questions on the Google Hangout, or you also can't make any comments on the YouTube page. If you want to go to our community page, go to community.cgcookie.com, and if you don't have an account, I think you have to sign up for an account to ask the questions on the forums. But on our live stream post, the concept live stream Cal demo 3.9.2016 is where people are asking questions at, and I'm reading them from there in order. So go post there if you have any questions. Zobu asks, what are good tips for drawing feet? What are the things you need to be the most focused on?
Drawing feet. Definitely the shapes of the foot. Even I think drawing feet is like a good challenge for any artist, because you don't see artists draw feet too often. Almost in every concept art piece that you see of a character, they're wearing some kind of a shoe or boots. And if they are barefoot, it's usually intentional, or it could be like they're a zombie or something. But if you just go ahead and try drawing the standard foot, I think the things you should be most focused on are the underlying anatomy, the bones, especially in the ankle. When I think of the best tutorials I've seen with the foot and the ankle area, I'm pretty sure it's the inside bone is higher than the outside one. So when you draw the foot, I always draw it at like a slight angle. And the foot is like here, something like that. And if you're doing more of a top-down view where you can see the toes, be sure that you put a gap in between the toes, especially the big toe and the second toe, even if it's just a little one. Let me go ahead and, so like, let's say this was your big toe. Even if they are touching and you wanted them to be closer together, still have that gap right there. Because then from there, then they usually form more of a bent inward approach. And then they are kind of touching. But at least between the big toe and the second one, I would definitely include a gap.
Oh, awesome. I love our community, by the way. Everyone's like posting up the link for the community page already. And on the YouTube page, I just updated it so that way people know where, if they want to ask questions there.
Oh, perfect.
Abe says, I sniff a ploy to increase the CG Cookie accounts. Well played.
Don't we wish?
Right. Gawky asks, do you plan to draw him the exact same way as you did previously? Also, can I adopt Cal?
Yeah, I think I wanted to show the steps on how I created the concept art, but if we finish early, which we probably will since this is such a simple concept, I could draw him in doing something else. I could probably share some of the other drawings I have of him. We've had some experimenting drawings with him. Like I've drawn him being thrown and like being plummeted into the air, being smushed, being thrown into a pit. Poor Cal gets thrown around a lot, but I really, really like Cal. He's like, I can't say too much, but he is definitely one of those smart characters that it doesn't reflect in his size, where his size is almost the opposite of how intelligent he actually is. But he's able to use his size to an advantage at the same time. So I really like Cal. Can you adopt him? Maybe. I don't know. I would love to adopt him myself. All right, so I'm just making little pockets for the eyes right now. And I will do the eyes on its own layer as well. I've been doing everything on its own layer so that you guys, if you want to download the Photoshop file to see how this was made, you can go ahead and do that. So I'm keeping it pretty consistent with what is behind what is above. So like the feet would be underneath of the wool, while the head would be on top of the wool, and then his little tuft that's near the top of his head, I'm gonna make a new layer for that, and I'll do it right now actually. And then, oops. I'm gonna draw it on the new layer, so we can turn that layer on and off as well. And this is also a great exercise for any of you out there that are like me when it comes to being way too meticulous and focused on how clean and how cleanly the entire process looks from start to finish. Because with this, you don't have to worry about the edges and how clean they look. You can just be more focused on the shape language, or making sure that areas in shadow look like they're in shadow while areas in light look like they're in light. And that's a really fun exercise for me to do because I am so overwhelmed sometimes with trying to make it look realistic. But when doing these like animated type characters, I find so much more freedom in not focusing on the realism aspects on them as much as the shapular aspects, and trying to really make them look in a 3D realized manner. And I love doing that because then it becomes kind of second nature to do the lighting feel more realistic and have the shapes reflect that as well.
Zebu says, thank you for your tips. I'll try to draw more from life. What are good brushes to be using together with the chalk brush?
I really like using the soft circle soft edge brush. Why is that catching me off guard? Hold on. The soft edge circle brush. That's it. I really like using that one to create a base to lay my chalk brush over, because the soft brush, let me go ahead and switch to it really quick. All right, there isn't really anything on Cal that I would use a soft brush for, but let's say I wanted to lay something down. Because it's a soft edge, and actually I'm going to turn the minimum diameter off. Up, there we go. You can see how it creates like this gradient from this gray to the light purple. And it's very soft. There's not a lot for your eye to focus on. Whereas with the chalk brush, it is a very attention demanding brush. So if I did something with a transition with this brush, you can see even if I try to like lighten the gradient, your eye will still focus on this one over the soft edge brush, because there's more area for your eye to wander through. Where with the soft edge brush, it becomes kind of opaque and unclear where you're supposed to be focusing on. So I love to use a soft brush in my paintings to almost diffuse areas of the painting and let the areas that are supposed to be the attention hungry ones get that attention. And I can do that with the chalk brush. So knowing which brushes work well in certain situations is a good thing to have in your knowledge. And I think having more than just one brush, I don't think it's necessary to like rely heavily on specific brushes, but I think having like a few basic ones that play out differently depending on how you work with them, that's the way to go for digital art, or at least in my opinion. What was I doing? Oh, the eye. I was like, I know I was doing something. There you are.
Night Changer asks, is 16 consecutive hours for a drawing considered healthy?
No. I think getting some sleep is good. I would be a hypocrite if I've said I haven't tried doing that before. I don't think I've ever managed 16 in one sitting. I know it's been high, but I don't know if I've done 16. But it's good to get around and like, I think when you're staring at something for so long, you start to not be able to see like what's wrong with it or the things that need fixing. And that's why I think it is good to get up at least a few times, even during like a painting that you know you're going to be sitting and spending a lot of time with. Like just take a moment to get up, go to the bathroom, get something to eat, do something, and then come back with a fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've started to run into issues with wrists and my forearm hurting, and I think it may be tendonitis or carpal tunnel. And I think the issue is because I'll just sit there and I'll work for 6 hours straight at a time. I highly recommend that you don't do that. That you stretch and that, like Tim said, get up, walk around, give your eyes a rest, because I'm sure you're concentrating really hard on what you're working on. But I think it's like you should be working for 50 minutes and then take like a 10-minute break, walk around, get a drink of water, get some food, come back, and then you can continue working. But I wouldn't do consecutive. That's kind of like if you ever played a video game for 12 hours straight, it's just not a good idea. Your eyes start to like tear up because you've just been keeping your eyes open the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Tigil says, "Hey Gawky, great to see you here. Your usage of color is amazing and very inspiring."
Yeah, Kaki's wonderful. Actually, she will also be at Anime Milwaukee this weekend, and I will be seeing her tomorrow night as we get set up. If you guys don't know who Gawky is, I would go check out her art. Her name is spelled like this. She's a great color artist and is a great artist to study in terms of working with brushstrokes and letting them be seen. It's definitely been inspiring for me to watch her work and see her process and just be able to let go of some of those constraints that I was putting on myself of like feeling the need to have it be smooth everywhere, and then have her just kind of like drop kick my door and be like, nope, just let it be seen. Don't even care. Like, let the texture be seen everywhere.
Can you write that in a darker? It's kind of like,
oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it kind of bleeds in with the gray. Sean 101 asks, "I have just finished a character illustration of a necromancer with goblin minions. Could you look at it and give a quick critique, please? If so, how would I send it?"
So we're thinking, I don't do individual critiques anymore just because I get a lot sent to me. But to try to mitigate that, I once every season on CG Cookie, I do like a user feedback stream. And the idea is that then all of those that have been sending me their work to be critiqued, we can do a whole stream on, I think there's 9 of them. Or I think there's more. I think there's actually 12 that we try to get through. No, there's 9. I'm sorry, there are 9. So if you want to, we will be doing the spring one probably in the next upcoming weeks, now that I think about it. So if you want to, I would assume that we're going to be doing it in 2 weeks because I usually give a week in notice in advance. So it won't be next week, but the week after, we'll plan on doing the user critique stream on that date. So if that is something that interests you, stay tuned. We'll probably put a link next week on the community page of where you can submit, and yeah, then you'll probably see it live streamed. I think last time was when we received more than 9. I think it was actually quite a bit more than 9. So I wasn't able to do all of them, but just know if you don't make the next one, there's another one in the summer, and we try to do it every season. So just something to keep in mind. Oops, and I should be flipping this more often.
Ave says, "Is no one going to do the Despicable Me thing? I can't resist. It's so fluffy, I could die." I am not says, "Pro tip, paint a lava sheep."
A lava sheep?
That'd be actually really cool.
Yeah.
Fabian asks, "Tim, how did you come up with the name Swordplay? I'm trying to make a graphic novel, but I just can't come up with a name. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and processes on coming up with that name."
Oh boy. It's one of those things where it's like, it's embarrassing to tell the origin, but then what it evolved into, the reason I kept it, because it originally started when I was in 5th grade. Me and my friend had this idea for this, book, because we were so hyped up on the RPGs we were playing, Final Fantasy X and Kingdom Hearts, that, of course, being little kids, you mimic what you like. So we created our own characters and this whole story. And the name Swordplay actually came from an overdrive in Final Fantasy X. And I really liked the verbiage of it. But then as I got older, it's one of those things that kind of just stuck. I feel like a lot of band names do that too, where they create a band name and then they like get famous, and they feel like they were stuck with the name that they thought of when they were in the garage of their parents' house that which is kind of like a temporary thing that actually became permanent. So it's kind of what happened with swordplay. But now that I'm older, I like the idea of it being more of a misguided title, where I really love when it's not actual battles being fought, but it's battles of the mind. If any of you know what House of Cards is, I love that all of the battles are verbiage and the way that they engage with each other. It's never physical fighting, and I love that aspect. So when I hear swordplay, I actually hear wordplay, and that's, I think, why I've kept it and why it's stuck with me, because in my book there really isn't a lot of fighting, but there is a lot of verbal underlying fighting that is going on, and I think that's why I've kept it. So maybe for you, if you're trying to think up of a name for your title, just put a, what are those called? Almost like a temporary name in place. And if you think of something better, awesome. But if you don't, maybe it was meant to be. And don't overthink it. I think if you are questioning it constantly, and it almost becomes like it bothers you because you can't think of a name, don't worry that much. You have the entire novel to write, and even all the stuff afterwards to think of a new name. So don't let it stress you out too much.
Tigel says, we are going to crash the site. I don't think you guys are going to crash the site.
I think it would be pretty hard for you guys to crash the site. All right, I'm going to add some shadow onto this sheet to really amplify the idea of the lighting direction. So I'm just working on a new layer above the fluff that I originally put down. And I'm just going to add in this darker shade of this white color.
We had about 15 people join the stream, and I'm just going to update those people on where to ask questions if they have any. If you guys, the new people that came in, if you have questions and you can't ask questions in the Google Hangout QA section, I highly suggest going to the community forums and on the Concept Livestream Cal demo page. That's where a lot of people are asking their questions. So post them up in there. Gawky says, please put a cookie in his mouth if you have time. Feed your child. Oh man, I dig those variety brush tips since I typically use one. Oh my god, thank you guys for the mention, and thank you, Tigel.
Of course, Gawky. Yeah, we could stick a cookie in there. I don't know if he's a big fan of cookies, but we'll find out. Well, it's funny, his name actually originated from the idea. One of my coworkers thought I said kale, and the name kind of stuck where in my mind it was Cal, but he always thought it was Kale. So there's kind of like this confusion of what is his actual name, but I like the name Cal, but I guess if you want to call him Cal, you can call him Cal too.
I am not asks, how do you go about coming up with what to draw? Do you pick subjects first, or maybe you think I want to work with red? Or are there some other strange thoughts that become the first step of your art?
It is so random and unpredictable. I couldn't tell you like a set structure that I have for myself. And I think that's the best way for me to work, is to not create a standard process for me to always follow. And yeah, it could be like one day I'm just like, I really enjoyed this use of color in this ad that I saw recently. I want to use that same color, and I'll just run with it, and I'll just kind of go. And that's my actual process. I feel like I wish there was a magic, step one, but there really isn't. And the older I get, the more I realize just trust your intuition. And I think it is important to work on your technical skills from time to time. But when you're working, if you want to create things that are purely imaginative and from a creative place, I think you just have to not think as much and just go and just start drawing and see what comes up. Okay, I'm at the point where I'm going to go ahead and create a folder. I typically work on a single layer. So working on all these layers is actually very strange for me right now. So I'm going to put all those layers in a group. I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to merge it down into one layer. So right now I have all of them on one layer, but I still have the group folder if you guys want to see the individual layers in the Photoshop file that I will post over. But from this point forward, I'm going to be working on a single layer just because it's a lot easier for me to not have to continually go through the different layers and see what layer has this on it, what layer has this. And now, mind you, it's different for every artist. I think I really do respect artists that have every single thing on a different layer. That is something I don't think I could ever do. It's way too much organization and thinking work for the process that I like to do. But maybe this will work better for you. Maybe you are one of those that like to stay organized the entire way through. It just kind of depends. And mind you, this isn't really client work. Where client work, I do push myself to have things on separate layers because that's when you would want to be able to separate them if needed.
Tidgel's asking about the mentorship.
Oh, that's right. Tomorrow we are launching our workshop. It is a mentorship that lasts for 5 weeks and it's open to 15 students. The idea is we will be working with you on like an individual level. And for the 5 weeks, we have specific lessons and tutorials that we want you to follow. But the more important thing is we're going to be looking at how you're working and where we believe you can improve most or where you need the most help. And we'll focus on those areas with you as an individual. Oops. Joe, someone join.
Did you link out the the whatchamacallit again? The this the Google Hangout link.
Oh, hold on. I don't think I did. Oh, you know what? There is one place I did put it. Okay, no, we're good.
In the meantime, JML says they have an answer, and I guess the Google Q&A app is broken, and they're working on a fix for it. So it's not our fault. It's Google
It's
Hangouts.
not our fault, guys. For once, not our fault.
I'm really digging the forum post though, because it's just like straightforward, and like there's gonna be no spam there, and it's just like linear timeline.
Yeah.
Where was I at? Aves asks, so I'm getting frustrated in the difference between my sketches and their cleaned up, finished versions. Like it ends up looking very dead in comparison after turning it into a clean line art. Any thoughts?
Wait, say that again.
What's happening is their sketch is looking really lively, but when they go to do line art, it's looking flat and dead.
Oh, yeah, I think that's actually very normal, unfortunately. Where usually when you're doing like gestural lines and there's a lot of movement and flow and action, but then when you try to condense it to a single line art, it typically will take away some of that movement and that excitement. And that's okay. I think if you can still have a strong line art that captures the same essence of the movement or whatever you're trying to create, then you just have to understand, or you know what, in my opinion, leave some of the gestural lines. I think it does actually help leaving it. And the more I'm doing it with my traditional sketches too, I'm just letting some of the strokes be seen because it's like what you're saying, it creates more of a movement and you want to keep that. So then my question then to you is then why take it away? Or maybe even develop somehow a cleaner way to capture that same essence. It's typically harder though, but it's definitely doable. You know what? Maybe on one of your new pieces, just try leaving some of the gestural lines seen. Maybe turn the opacity down or something, and try working that way.
The other thing that you can do is it's kind of like what Tim was saying, where what you have to do is you have to try to figure out what line is going to give the most form. Because what's probably happening is that you're following just the same line that you've marked and it's causing it to be flat. Whereas with line art, you have to try to figure out what line is going to show the most dimension. And that's a struggle. That's just, it's something that you need to practice and study from other artists and see how they kind of go about doing it. Because I mean, if that's the clean line art look that you're going for, the other thing is some people's clean line art looks just okay until they add color. When when they add color, then you're just like, whoa. But like, I'm trying to think of artists, for example, that have just like super clean line art that give really good form. Like Jeffrey Cruz has really good line art that just looks dimensional, but it's because he knows where to place lines that's going to give it more form. Aves also says, not going to crash the site, challenge accepted.
Not that we encourage it.
Right. Knob136 says, so I'm getting into digital art and I've been a traditional artist for a long time. Thanks for all your live streams and tutorials. They've been helping a lot. That said, I am not and probably will not be a professional artist, but I have a jack of all trades mentality. And I'm not an expert at any one thing. I have an illustration I'm working on for a D&D source book I am writing, and I want it to look really good, but don't have the budget to pay a really good artist to do the illustration. And I'm worried it will not be the quality that I want for the cover of my book. Any suggestions and tips?
Oof. You know, this goes back to that whole discussion of, let me draw it out actually. Actually, let me post it up here. I'm pretty sure that there's 3 aspects when it goes into creating art professionally: time, quality, and money. So the idea is you get, and I don't know why this was taught to me while I was in school, but the idea is choose 2 and that's what you end up with. Rarely do you get all 3. So in your case, if you don't have you want the quality, but you don't have the money, but you have time, or wait, hold on. Let me look at this. I'm pretty sure you get to choose one. Oh, it's choose one and throw away the other. I think that was it. So you don't have money, but you have time. So then you have to get rid of quality. And it was this weird thing of learning how the industry works where they'll sacrifice one, they'll do away with another, but they have an abundance of one. But then you get like big name companies where they have money and quality, but a lot of the times they don't have the time. And that's why you see things rushed all the time with like Ubisoft with their Assassin's Creed or the Call of Duty games. It's pumping out every single year because they don't have the time to really create a game that they might have inspired to make if they had like 3 years instead of I think it's a 9-month period they have to produce and make a whole new game for that year. So just know, if you're working with these 3 aspects, choose what's most important to you. And it sounds like quality is, well, then I would start saving money, because if you want quality, you're going to have to pay for that quality. Unless if you do it yourself, then you have to put in your time. It goes back to that whole trifecta. Let me get a good look at our Cal guy. This will be bigger.
Kathy Brown says, looks like you guys got me an account. I see how it is. That wasn't the intended purpose. It was Google Hangout. It's broken. Tigil asks, would Cal survive being stuck in a box that was traveling from the US to Belgium? If yes, please send him to me. I want that sheep. I want to cuddle it constantly and never ever let it go. Would look weird at my job though, but I don't care.
I think he would survive. He is very tactical. I'm going to add in some highlight to give these eyes more of a gloss appearance here.
Elena Watkins asks, how will the mentorship work for someone in a different country? I live in Japan and I am 13-ish hours ahead of you guys. It is all through email, or is it all through email or one-on-one video? By the way, I wake up at 5 every Thursday morning to watch you guys.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, thank you very much for waking up at 5 o'clock to watch us.
Well, thank you. The way that it's normally worked, because it is a world mentorship, it's not just like a United States thing. We do weekly live streams, and unfortunately, we do set like one time per Thursday. But the good thing is we record those and you're not required to be at them. If anything, it's more of like a live critique of everyone's work, and it kind of just shows more of like a live version of what we do through the email. So I email you every single week, and I keep my email open to you. So if you have any questions outside of the homework assignment or of what a task I've given you, you can email me, and it's just that back and forth for 5 weeks. So the idea is it is offline, but it's a very responsive offline mentorship, because I think last time we had more people outside of the States than we had inside of the States. So it was definitely working with different time zones and figuring out, okay, this is typically when this person emails because they are asleep during the times that we are awake. So it's a learning experience, but I think this is going to be our 4th one that we've done of I Can Draw Anything. And I think we've got a format down where it works for people that are outside of the country. So yeah, don't worry. We definitely have a system in place set. And I think you will be the 2nd person from Japan we have worked with on a mentorship. So I know how it's like. And if you are typing that question, it means that you are able to read and write English, or at least it sounds like it is. And that definitely makes it a lot easier. One time we had someone that their English wasn't as great, and I had to work with them a little more closely because of the language barrier, but we still got the general idea across because art is a visual language, and that is a language I can definitely speak. Poor Cal. I'm going to go ahead and start doing more detailing on him. I feel like I've been working way too slow for what I would normally be on this little guy, but I'm going to start to add in some detail, and then we will switch to that other brush that I was talking about earlier.
Yes, Tigil asks, could you tell us more bit about the game Cal came from, and will it be available for mobile in the future? Because now I only play it on my dad's iPad and not on the phone. And I'm guessing he's talking about Eat Sheep, the mobile game CG Cookie made.
The original Eat Sheep was for the iOS. It was just for the iPad though. And that was something we did 2 years ago as kind of a can we do it type of a mindset. And we did do it. It was a lot of stress and a lot of learning definitely to be done. But we kind of got excited to eventually do another one. So we may explore that further. I think it's something that the crew definitely wants to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few months we announce something publicly. But for right now, I can't say anything from what Cal is from. He is more of just like a prototype. But I definitely love the little guy, and I would love to see him in something bigger.
I'm not asks, how much would you say that a background environment adds to an illustration meant to portray a character?
I'd be lying if I didn't think a lot. I think the character itself can tell a lot about the story and origin of the character, but if you place them in a setting that reflects and almost enhances that idea, then I mean it's like storytelling 101. There's definitely a lot of visual language that you can put in a background element that you couldn't put on just a character in a white or gray background. So even with like this Cal character that I'm working on right now, just working on a gray background, it doesn't really imply anything about the character. But if I put him in like a lava volcano setting, it definitely adds more excitement or curiosity of like, why is he in this volcano? Why is this little sheep doing that? And I think that's where you can play with background elements to tell the story that you can't just get if you are doing it on just a gray or blank background.
Jamie asks, would you rather lose an eye or your dominant hand? Keep in mind that without one eye, your perspective is off since you can't see in 3D.
Well, since I don't draw anything in perspective anyways, I would lose an eye. I would try to accept the challenge of working with my left hand or my non-dominant hand, but I just think that struggle would be like years before I could get back to the same level with my dominant hand, with my recessive. So I would rather train myself to work with one eye, I guess is the best way to say it.
That's a really tough question.
I don't know. I'm like, I use my second hand for the keyboard. Like I couldn't work with just one hand. If I tried, it'd be very, very hard.
Right? Yeah, I'd probably go with the eye, although I wouldn't want to.
I definitely wouldn't want to.
How about we just keep our eyes in our hands?
Deal. I agree to that one.
All right, I think that's all the questions that are on the forums right now.
All right, perfect. Because I think I'm going to do the demonstration then with the secondary brush. All right, so up until this point, we've been using this chalk brush. So now I'm going to switch over to our CG Cookie texture brush, which you can download on the site. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mask out what we have done already. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to mask it out yet. That's for the rim light, which we will do after we do this pass. So what I'm doing here is I'm just grabbing a lot of the color that's already laid down. And I'm basically just trying to create a more textured look. So I'm just color picking and I'm letting the stringy look on either side of the brush take effect. And I'm going to try to be more bold with how I'm placing this. So even like that brush stroke there, I really like the slight overlap on this darker purple because that is the look that we're trying to get. It almost gives the appearance of a texture or a canvas that we're working on top of. And I like that as well.
Tidgel says, Cal the movie. I would watch that. And Iron Matt follows up with, only if Brad Pitt is Cal.
You could be the voice actor.
Yeah, we'll just call it Brad Pitt. Hey, Brad, we need you to voice
Don't be a sheep.
this character. It's like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. It's like, it's a sheep.
He's like, oh, even better. I've always wanted to be a sheep. All right, now I'm going to the outside edge and just like doing a slight brush. I don't want to make it too heavy. And if you guys are wondering like what is the reason behind a lot of this, the art direction that I'm following right now is definitely very Tonko House. It's one of my favorite little studios right now. They made a movie or a short film called The Dam Keeper last year. And they just recently just showcased their new one called Moom. And I'm like in love with everything that studio creates, and especially with their very hand-painted textures on an animated film. And I would love if Cal was in a film or a game, I would love him to retain that same look. So I think with the concept art, if this was considered concept art, I'm trying to push it so that I have a visual narrative to show the rest of the team or the crew or even the 3D modeler of this is the look that I would love to achieve if possible, and then take the necessary steps to make it happen. And I just love the idea of having an entire game feel like it was painted.
Jamie asks, would you rather be a successful artist who sells uninspired art or a starving but brilliant artist?
Starving brilliant. I think that's like an easy question to answer unless if you've lived it. So I guess I can't honestly answer that until I've lived both, but I have definitely felt the effect of creating uninspired art that makes money, and it just doesn't feel good. I guess for me personally, I just did not enjoy that aspect. So I think thankfully CG Cookie's kind of given me a platform to create art that I would want to create. So I've been very fortunate, and I think even with like this Cal character, I I really like this little Duber. So I enjoy the fact that I'm able to paint this on a live stream and get paid for it. So I don't know. It would be really hard to live the starving artist life at the same time, where I even see some of my roommates who are freelancers, how some days it's really awesome, they get a big break or a big deal, and then other days they're just grinding trying to get through work that they really don't enjoy. So there's definitely a give and take. I think there's pros and cons to any, path that we take. It's what you want in the end. Like, what result do you want in the end when, even when you're like old and gray? Like, would you rather look back on life and feel, I've made a lot of money and I was able to travel, I was able to pay for my kids' education, things that, are real wants and desires. And it doesn't have to be selfish. I think sometimes we associate money too much with being selfish, but a lot of times you could be selfless and give it to others or create a more comfortable life for your friends and family. Or do you take the other route of looking back and feeling very proud of the work that you've created, even though you may not have garnered a lot of money, but you feel like you have stayed true to yourself as an artist, and you're very proud of everything you've created and done throughout your life. So I don't know, it's a tough give or take for that question, but I like it. I like the question.
It was asked, Cal talks, do a voice sample.
No, my idea was Cal cannot talk. And it makes it even more frustrating for him when he tries to, like, because he's a smart character, but he can't talk. So sometimes he'll know what to do, but it's really hard for him to get it across. So he'll try to like charades it out somehow. So yeah, I guess that's how I kind of picture Cal.
Sigil says, nah, I think Cal should have a Dutch accent voiced by a skinny blonde guy from Belgium.
Oh yeah, maybe we'll test that out. All right, let me show you guys really quick. I'm going to turn this layer on and off so you can see what that brush did. It's almost like a filter where you put it through and it just creates a slightly more painterly effect. It like takes some of the brush strokes and offsets it based on where it's located on the drawing. But I'm going to continue forward on making our rim light now with that. And now is when I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to mask out the entire character that we just did. And then I'm going to grab blue because, like I said earlier, that was the original color I thought the rim light was going to be. And then it changed to yellow, but I'll show you, or orange, and then I'll show you how I did that.
I am not asks, have you ever tried 2D animation?
Yes. When we were in school, we were required to do 2D animation, and I kind of enjoyed it. I just, you know, when you really are passionate about something and when you're just kind of like, not really my thing. I think for me, doing the 2D animation was more of like a type of a feeling. But when I did like digital painting, I felt so much more at home. I really loved it. It's time consuming and it is extremely frustrating. But if you can create a really awesome end result, you feel so proud of the work that you did. And I had a lot of friends that were in the 2D animation, and they may have hated the process or like they felt like they were grinding a lot of the time. But when they finished, they were really proud to show it off to the rest of us. And it was really cool seeing their hard work kind of pay off too.
That's the most frustrating thing about 2D animation, I think, is just like getting that, doing all that work and it only being like 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And being like, oh yeah, I did this scene in this show. And then like you watch it and it's just like that one framed animation of just like, and you're just like that's awesome. But at the same time, it's like, I spent, 24 hours straight working on this quick animation.
Yeah. That's why I give a lot of credit to, oh God, and even like stop motion movies.
Right.
It's like, kudos.
Those, whenever they show the time lapse of them like putting like
At the end of box.
like, yeah, like anything that and it, like just the whole like stop and then they fly into the camera because it's time lapsed and they like quickly adjust it and then they disappear and then they move to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy Brown says, I think he should sound like Sheep from the Big City.
I never saw that.
Neither did I.
Oh, wait. Babe in the Big City?
Oh, yeah. So they were like...
Never mind. I did see that.
They were always like, bah.
Oh, man.
Right.
It's been so long. I don't remember. Oh yeah, they do say ba. No,
What
don't
was
they talk?
what was the thing that they say in the first one?
Oh, I think the last time I saw Babe or Babe in the City was when I was like 5.
They like chant something at Babe, don't they?
I couldn't
I
tell
don't.
you.
Tijel asks, Jamie, did you buy a Would You Rather book?
That's where she's just asking these questions from.
Yeah.
All right, when I'm doing this rim light, I'm very much just focusing on the forms of this character. And it's really easy because he is just made up of a lot of circles or spheres, and his little stubby legs, I guess, would be more cylinders. But it can be broken down into those shapes very, very easily. So when you lay in the rim light, you're just thinking, okay, if the light is coming from the side direction, how would it land on a circular object? And then just have that be reflected when you're laying on the rim light. So that's what I'm doing here. I'll probably do a bit of cleanup, and then I'll switch over to that other brush right now so we can stay consistent with the overall look that we're trying to achieve. And then I'll go ahead and I'll edit the hue and saturation to show you how I can make this blue into more of an orange color.
Really fast. This just popped up. Gaki says, if Cal can't talk, then make Cal noises.
I cannot. I am legally obligated not to make any sheep noises. You know what? It was funny when CG Cookie made the first Eat Sheep and we started doing the voice acting. Since the monsters and the sheep don't talk, it was just like noises. And I remember they asked me to make noises, and I had to go in a studio booth. And I don't think I've ever been more uncomfortable with CG Cookie than making ba fear, ba laugh, and ba distraught noises in this little recording booth. And I remember I was like, and I could see Wes and Jonathan. I would just look at them like, what am I doing right now? I am not a good voice actor, so I would not be. I think Joe would be more comfortable doing.
Oh man, I would eat that up.
Mine would be very bad.
That's so funny because it's like words like you'd be super comfortable. I'd be like, put me in, coach.
Yeah, right.
Let's do this.
And there comes the player coming off like, what the?
Matt asks, I am really struggling to draw human figures using planes. I have got an understanding of gesture, form, and proportion, but when I try to resolve form as planes, my drawing tends to fall apart. I really want to be able to do this for 2 reasons. Firstly, to help with lighting, and second, to help with translating my image to sculptures. Any advice?
Wait, they're trying to create the form with just planes?
With just flat planes.
I would try working with forms instead of planes. I think, what is the thing you're doing right now, Joe? Oh, the box technique or the cylinder. I think working with forms are just a lot more flexible than just working with single flat planes.
Something that you can try visualizing is think of, as far as planes go, think of those as decks of cards. So I know that sounds kind of silly, but if you take a look at a card from a deck of cards, and it's just like a face plane, right? And a cube or a box is made up of 6 of those, or 1, 2, 3, 4 that you could probably see at a given time. So that's the way kind of you have to think about it. There's a lot of facial plane studies out there, and I know there's a lot of mannequins. What I don't know the specific term that show those planes. But yeah, those planes, like Tim said, eventually turn into forms. And so if you start off by drawing, something that helps me is I'll draw a cylinder, and I'll cut the cylinder in half, and that helps me draw the planes, as opposed to just trying to draw a circle or like spheres, because spheres technically have like hundreds of thousands of infinite planes on them. So I suggest checking out Michael Hampton's design and invention book where he talks about those things. But it's a simple thing that you can do is start drawing card people and then show the direction that those planes are facing, and that will definitely help out with lighting, because then you'll know if those planes are facing a certain direction and light's bouncing into that direction, then you'll know that the light will capture that. But if there's another plane that isn't in that direction, then light can't hit that spot. I'd have to draw it out to probably show that, but I hope my verbiage can explain that. Tijal asks, I've heard Tim talk about his kids from a few times now. Is there something you need to tell us, Tim?
My kids? Yeah, I have 4. They're all action figures. All right, so I'm at the point where I added in quick background, but I'm going to take it out. When I have the rim light on its own layer, which I do right now, this is so easy to change the color. I'm going to switch over so you guys can see my full screen. Let me go ahead and... Okay, my desktop is looking pretty sloppy. That's okay. Switch over to screen 1. All right. So in Photoshop, let me move this over. All right, so right now you can see I have the rim light on its own layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my hue and saturation, which is under the image tab on the top menu. Go to adjustments, hue saturation. Now, I'm not going to adjust the saturation or lightness. I'm only going to focus on the hue. And you can see as we slide it over, we get a different color. And it's changing the hue, but it's not changing the saturation or the brightness. So when I did this, I was going to actually push it to about here. I really like this. It's almost like a royal light blue color that I really like as an accent. But then as I kept pushing it forward, I really like the contrast that this orange yellow light is giving against the purple. And if it is a bit too much, then that's where you can then affect the lightness and the saturation. But for the most part, I'm going to keep it as it was, and I'm going to just focus with this orange. I really like the end result. Choose OK. And if you want to see it back and forth, just if you're on a Mac, it's Command-Z. PC, it's Control-Z. And you just switch between the undo. And you can see which one you like better. I could even just keep this layer separate so that if you want, you can show off what it looks like in both to your art director, whoever you're working for, and see what they like better. Because then the other thing is I want to stay consistent with all my rim lights. And if the other characters are primarily that orange-yellow character, maybe this rim light wouldn't be a good fit. But this blue might be a good fit if the other characters aren't so much orange. But just try to stay with one rim light if you're going to work consistently within a game. I think it just shows better if you do like a lineup at the end. Oh my gosh, I just knocked over my cup.
I was like, is everything okay over there?
It was like just scissors and things of sharp natures. All right, so I'm going to switch back so you guys can't see my whole screen. Where are you? There you are. Okay. That way I can zoom in. Oops. You guys can see the image more clearly. There we go. All right, so then what do I do when my image is finished? So I'm going to merge this down just as a testing ground. Hide it, paste it, move them, bop it, twist it, and then he was about here. Okay, so what I usually do to my image when I'm finished is I adjust some of the color balance and the vibrance. So I'm going to go ahead and see what he looks like when I'm editing that. And to get to the color balance, I probably should have just showed this when I was doing, you know what? I will. I'll show you guys. Switch back over. Sorry about that. All right, so how do you do that? You go to your image, adjustments, color balance, and you just slide these slider bars left or right, depending on which one you want to affect. And you can see how you have a tone balance. So Right now, I'm only affecting the midtones. If I want to add more blue, you add more blue to the midtones, not the shadows or the highlights. So I usually do the midtones first, and then I'll move to the highlights and then end off with the shadows. Because the shadows definitely have a greater effect on usually the contrast than the midtones or the highlights do. So that's why I keep them for last. I keep it like there. So you can see how we make it blue, the area around the eyes become very, very dark. So I want to be careful with how much shadow balancing I'm doing. And when you're done, choose OK. Now if I go back and forth, you can see the difference. It's a subtle one, but one that I'm going to continue working with. And usually I have to like look at this further away than I normally sit at my desk, or just make the image smaller. And I could be color balancing all day. It's one of my favorite things to do in digital art. Yes, I'm going to continue working forward with this one. And actually, now that we're full screen, I might as well just keep it full screen. Okay, so then the other thing is I'll go to vibrance, which is also under image adjustments vibrance. And there's a difference between vibrance and saturation. Saturation can make an image look crazy because if we turn it all the way up, you can see how crazy high the saturation is. And you know what? This actually isn't as much of an eyesore as some other pieces. Usually when you turn your color saturation all the way up to 100, it creates this burn, a color burn on your images. But when you turn saturation all the way down, it becomes grayscale. Now with vibrance, if you turn your vibrance all the way down, it will not turn grayscale. It will just turn down the overall tone. It'll be like, it's toned down is the best way I can describe it. And then if you turn it all the way up, wow, for this character, it's really not that good of an example between vibrance and saturation. Vibrance usually will make your colors more bold without it burning your image. But when I turn it all the way up, I guess it's not completely a burn, but it's still enough where this doesn't look like a rim light up here anymore. It looks like a blue that was painted on the side. And then it is a whole new style, but it's not one that I want to work with for this project. So I'm going to actually turn it down because I want it to feel more like a rim light. Choose OK. You can see how the colors just become slightly more bold. And that's what I want without it being too much. Yeah, something like that. And then if there's any other area that I want to adjust or fix, I'll then go in with my one of my brushes, just work it up. But the idea behind working in this style is not to overthink details. So I'm not going to try to clean it up and smooth it up completely. I'm going to let it be more organic on the edges and not so clean. You know what? Since we do have about 10, 15 more minutes, I will quickly do a new cal kind of in the way I would normally do it, because when I'm going this slow, it's more for demonstration purposes. But if I was just drawing cal for another concept reason, I would probably work a lot faster. So if we have any other questions, maybe I'll do like a quick, what should cal be doing?
Do you it's like, for some reason my immediate thought process is like angry Cal. Like,
I can do angry cal.
like he wants to headbutt something, or like sneaky Cal.
I like angry cal. That I like. So while I'm doing that, if we have any other questions, I'll try to knock out a few as we get through the angry cal here.
Can you give him a war helmet?
No.
Let me scroll down. Sarah Wright asks, I've been asked to work on a project as a character artist, which was really nice, but I recently found out that I was asked after a long line of others that said no. Have you ever been in a situation where you knew your work wasn't someone's first, second, or third choice? And how do you deal with it if so?
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Just always assume you're not the first. I think that's the best way I look at it, because then your feelings don't get hurt. I guess it's a little tough because sometimes with commissions, you know that specifically they're going for you, but I don't know. Just don't let it affect you. Just know that that happens. And for every person that you're not their favorite, there might be another person that you are their favorite artist. And that takes time. And I've definitely experienced it, not on the level of knowing, but I've always had the inclination that I wasn't the first artist chosen. And if they're paying you, I think just, you know, be glad that at least they're paying you to do work, because a lot of artists that are in our industry unfortunately get taken advantage of.
People are saying that you forgot to add the cookie.
Oh, that's right. You know what? Maybe I'll have him eating his cookie with this one. He's really upset because, like me, he does not like hard cookies, and someone gave him a hard cookie.
I'm not
angrily eating this cookie.
I'm not asks, what's the latest, greatest art advice you got and can remember?
Ooh. You know what? Usually I write them down and I put them on little Post-it notes on my computer. But I cleaned out my desk recently. I accidentally unplugged my for a second. Hold on. The last thing that I heard was, talk yourself into it, not out. And it's the idea of, you always hear artists give it reasons or excuses of why they can't do something, but why not try the opposite, where you start giving yourself reasons or excuses to do something, where it would be like someone's asking you to play a online game with them, and you might be like, in your head, obviously not out loud, you're just thinking, no, I can't play that game with you because I need to create this illustration, or I need to start working on this instead. And you talk yourself into it rather than be like, well, I haven't talked to them in a while and it'll only be a few hours. Instead, you're talking yourself into doing the project rather than talking yourself out of doing it.
I wonder how, because apparently your screen just crashed. So hold on. I'm going to see if there's like a lag time and see if people can see you again. Hold on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for some reason on my screen, you went like super robotic when I think you changed screens, and it just like for some reason clicked out.
We good now?
I mean, I can still see you. So as far as YouTube goes, it's probably still recording. But people are saying that they can't see you or your screen.
Let me try it again. All right, well, if you can't see it, I mean, the stream's almost ending anyways, but I'm drawing Angry Cal eating a stale cookie. And it will be on YouTube afterwards. So if you really wanted to see Angry Cal, you can see what he looked like.
I wonder if that fixed it. Night Changer asks, do you have any experience with Krita?
No, I was waiting on a Mac version for so long, and then I think I kind of just stuck with Photoshop. If I was to experiment with a new software, it would probably be Corel Painter, and then I think that's the only one that's really on my plate that I really want to experiment with more. But as of right now, yeah, I don't have any plans.
Your screen's back up, by the way.
Oh, perfect.
Now says, I'm trying to become an artist, but I'm only 13. Any hints? P.S. My father is one. So my father is one. Any tips?
Say that again?
Do you have any tips for a 13-year-old artist?
Whew, man, I feel like there's so much I could say. If I could talk to myself as a 13-year-old, the advice I would give would be don't doubt yourself. Know that there is a gap in quality between you and the people you look up to, and it takes time and effort to bridge that gap. Don't get discouraged. Just stay on your trail and don't let people talk you out of something. I think that's what my best advice would be.
I am not asks, can you talk like Sean Connery?
Man, I don't know if you guys think I am like good at impressions in a past life or something, but I
think that's
promise you, I
why.
am not good at impressions.
I think it's because you say that you're not, so then they're like, we want to hear it.
Like secretly, that's what I do on my spare time. No. One day, maybe one day.
Trying to think of Sean Connery. It's like
It's the
The Rock, or how is it? He's because he was in The Rock. He was also James Bond, wasn't he?
I believe so.
Got to do with the
Mm-hmm.
Or he was. They also do that Jeopardy bit on Saturday Night Live.
That's what I think of immediately. Trebek. I'm not gonna do it. Nope. I'm not getting. I almost got into it. Nope.
Well, anything he's like, I want to do those impressions on the SNL, but those are so like probably shouldn't say those on the stream.
No. Definitely not appropriate.
Gawky says to the reply of the 13-year-old, Niall, it says, also just have fun. That's the most important thing.
Yes. Totally agree.
Yeah, have fun. Don't ever stop having fun with art. I think if we're up to date with all the questions that were on the forums.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you guys. I'm gonna spend like let's do like 5 more minutes on Angry Cal here, and then we'll be finished up. Usually when I do like quick stuff like this, like even right now I'm going a little slower just because I'm focusing on talking and making sure I don't sound ridiculous as I answer them. But try to work as fast as you can while still being efficient with your brush strokes. I think if you're able to do that, you'll start to see how awesome and fun it can be to create concept art because you're not going at a snail's pace. And then by the time you're done with it, you're like, man, I should have been able to, do that in like 10 minutes, but it took me an hour or two. And you just have to like mentally challenge yourself of, no, I'm only going to spend 10 minutes on this. Have even one of those timers in the corner. I've seen artists that do that where they'll have a little timer in the corner and they'll be like, okay, I get 1 hour to do this concept. And it's like that constant reminder in the corner that they see of, oh crap, I only have 20 minutes left. I really should, stop shading this eyeball to a crazy amount of detail when it's not necessary for concept art. I'm gonna make the cookie orange.
Elena asks, weird question, but how do you not see commissions as work? I know I'm getting paid, but the minute I start on a commission, I want to automatically draw something for myself. Selfish, I know. How do I get out of that mindset because I want art as a career?
Oh, it's really difficult. Even when I'm doing the commission stuff, I got one recently that I told myself I wasn't going to do commissions anymore, but as soon as I started it, it does feel like work, but that's a good thing because then well, at least for me, I don't know how you see it, but for me, then it makes me want to do my original stuff so much more. And I want to finish that commission. I don't want to make it sloppy by any means. I definitely want to, make them happy because they're paying you and they reached out to you. So I definitely want to make them happy, but usually it'll get me more inspired to work on my original stuff. But how do you get out of that? I don't think I have a solid answer because I don't think I have gotten out of that yet. I still see commission work a lot of the times as work, unless if it's like a fun commission. The most fun I had was, what was the fan art one I had to do? I'm pretty sure it was a Jinx pixel commission, and it was Jinx from League of Legends. And at the time, I really was into League of Legends, so doing that was actually more of like an enjoyable process, and it was something that I really enjoyed doing. Or one of the first ones I had with CG Cookie was a poor boy in a fantasy setting, and I was like, man, I couldn't have written up a better one myself. So I had a lot of fun on that one, and I think it comes down to pick and choosing commission, or maybe this is the answer. It comes down to which ones you pick and if you know you'll enjoy the concept or not. The least enjoyable one that I've ever done was a nano suit that someone wanted, and they were really specific with the tech and the specs, and it was a great idea. I loved, and he was a really nice guy. So it's nothing against him personally. It was just, I'm not a big sci-fi person, so I should have known going into it, I wouldn't have really enjoyed doing the concept art of this nano suit. So pick and choose wisely, and choose things that you know the subject matter will excite you, because if you're not excited, I think that'll reflect in your art, and you want to have your art reflect your best quality, your best skill level. And if you aren't, excited about it, I think it will reflect in your art.
Ironmod asks, can you make inverted cal real quick?
Inverted cal?
Yeah.
Yes, I will try my best. Hold on. Let me move pissed off cal to the side. So they want like the purple fur or wool.
I don't know if they just want you to hit Control-Shift-I or not.
Oh no, that will look horrible. Hold on. I'll give them purple fur really quick. I think I can do this fairly quickly. And the other thing I have with Cal is the idea is he's supposed to be sculptable. So the way I have him is from a front view, there are 6 circles, and then his head goes in the middle. So you can see the 6 circles at any given time. And then from the side view, it would be the 3, or you'd only see the top circle and the bottom circle, and then two of the ones on the side. So you wouldn't see, you wouldn't see this half, but you would see this half. And then there would be one in the middle. So let me do it again to better explain. So he's going to have purple fur or purple wool. I don't know why I keep saying fur. So the front view, we'd have top, front, bottom. And then back would be the same thing. And then the way I have it right now is then he has 2 bigger puffs on either side that you can't really see in the front view, but you can definitely see on the side view, and then just filled in. You stick out his legs. In this case, it would be inverted.
Oh, they're chanting Control-I, Control-I. I guess that is what
it'll look really bad. This is almost like if Cal had like a black sheep cousin, this is probably what he would look like. Too high. And once you draw a character enough times, you kind of know their proportions by heart, and you can just draw them over and over and over again. I think that's what I'm learning with this, because I've never drawn a character over and over and over so many times. Even with my swordplay, near the beginning, it's like you're experimenting with what design looks cool. But at this point, it's just making sure that repetition feels the same throughout as you continually draw them over and over and over again. And the other, I guess, the challenge is not to get bored. I think a lot of the times you can get bored if you're drawing the same thing over and over. But with Cal, this is such a simple character that I actually really enjoy it, because it doesn't take a lot of time each time I do it. His head's definitely a little bigger, so I'm making it bigger here. This is probably more along the lines of what I would perceive inverted Cal to be, but we can go ahead and do Control-I as well. Promise you, it's not going to look that pretty. I'll flatten this image.
The Skype chat is saying that it's an uproar and they're protesting until you do so. and that they're going to paint it on signs and stand in front of our house and chant, make sheep noises.
God, he looks pissed. He looks like an evil villain sheep.
Oh, wow. Yeah. He's, what is it? Nega?
Actually, this looks a lot better than I thought it was.
Nega
Yeah, this would be Nega Cal. I actually really like it. We can make him, wait, hold on. I can make him look pretty demonic.
Sam says, hey, this is Sam from the 6. You guys are great and very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad drawing satanic sheep is helping. Or no, wait, better idea. Hold on.
This is like Cal's super evil twin brother.
Or his mother.
Dun, dun, dun.
You tell it's a girl because he has eyelashes. Cal was not a very good child, apparently. All right, well, I'm done drawing Cal's mom. Thank you guys for coming to this live stream. We do these every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time, and that is -5 GMT if you're outside of the States. We usually announce what we're doing about an hour or two beforehand. We will be doing the user critique in 2 weeks. We'll probably put a link to it next week. And the workshop is going out tomorrow. So if that is something that interests you and you want to work more on like a one-on-one level with Joe and myself as your mentor for 5 weeks, that will be going out. And it only goes to 15 students, so it's first come, first serve. I can't reserve any seats. And yeah, I'm kind of excited to get that going. We haven't done one since last summer, I think was the last one we did. So it'll be fun to kind of jump back into the workshop mode. All right. So thank you guys for coming. Joe, you have any final words?
No, hopefully we get to see some of you guys this weekend. That'd be awesome.
That's right. And yeah, the final reminder, we'll be at Anime Milwaukee this weekend in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Wes, myself, and Joe will be there. I'll be doing a live drawing all weekend. So if you're going to be at that show, stop by and say hi. All right. That's all I got. Thanks, you guys, for coming. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.